So hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Stephanie Hawks. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about our office, the Office of Multicultural Student Engagement. But before we do, we always lead our presentations with a land acknowledgement. Wayne State University rests on Waiiwatenag, also referred to as Detroit, the ancestral and contemporary homeland of the Three Fires Confederacy. These sovereign lands were granted by the Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Wyandot nations in 1807 through the Treaty of Detroit. Wayne State University affirms Indigenous sovereignty and honors all tribes with a connection to Detroit. With our Native neighbors, Wayne State can advance educational equity and promote a better future for the earth and all people. So we do a land acknowledgement for a couple of reasons. One, it's a sign of respect. So recognizing that the land in which we are situated had original occupants and caretakers, and through the process of colonialization and genocide and all of those things that were often not really taught in schools, some voices and perspectives get erased in that. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring and recognizing the history of this land, and that there are still people who occupy this land from Indigenous backgrounds. So with that, this is the current staff. We are a little bit short-staffed right now, but we're working to fill those vacancies as quickly as we can. We actually just wrapped up an interview today. But as I said, I'm the senior director for the office, and I get to work alongside two great individuals, Dr. Joseph Bradfield, who is our student engagement and retention coordinator, and he does work with our learning communities, some of our Black student engagement programming, amongst other things in the office. And then Candace Harris, who's our executive assistant, who makes sure that our office runs smoothly and that we're able to put on great events for our students through room reservations, catering, so on and so forth. So with that, a little bit about our office. So our office was created back in 2015. So in the grand scheme of diversity offices in the higher ed landscape, we're a pretty new office, but we exist to cultivate a safe campus environment where we're valuing, promoting, and celebrating the identities of all the students who engage with our office. So we recognize that Wayne State is one of the most diverse campuses in Michigan. And so we want to make sure that we're creating a campus environment that celebrates those identities and creates a space where all students feel that they're respected, valued, and heard. And so we do that by collaborating with folks across campus. So some of our partners here, through programming, through meetings, through listening, to make sure that we're creating a safe student-centered space. And so our office is always collaborating with people on programs. And so this is not in any way what I'm going to talk about tonight going to be exhaustive in terms of the ways in which our office has partnered with folks across campus. But we do our work through three core areas of focus. So we do cultural identity programming, workshops and trainings for students and student leaders. And then we have, I already touched on this briefly, but our retention-focused learning communities. And so these slides that I'm about to show are just a brief and short kind of overview of some of the things that we've done over the years in collaboration with folks across campus and celebrating the different identities present in our student body. So we just wrapped up, I'm like, what month is this now? We just wrapped up Hispanic Heritage Month, which ran from September 15th through October 15th. And we also wrapped up Coming Out Week. And so in a lot of ways through that programming, we partnered with our Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies Department, our Center for Latino, Latina, and Latin American Studies Department to put on programming and bring awareness to the rich cultural diversity here in our student body. So on this screen is just some of the flyers for some of the things that we've done. So recognizing Black History Month, that month offers a lot of collaborations across campus. One of those was the conversations on colorism in the Black community, which we did in partnership with the Counseling and Psychological Services, so CAPS, to talk about how there's nuances with when we talk about Black identity and discrimination and prejudice, even within the Black community, recognizing that, colorism exists within the Black community. We partnered with folks from, which is now actually the Chinese Staff and Faculty Association, but we did a panel discussion on the identity and misconceptions about the Chinese and Chinese American community for Asian Dead Sea Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And one of the things that I also want to highlight is that disability also often gets left out of a conversation on diversity. And so the flyer up on the right, the art of Christine Sun Kim, One of the folks in our office who actually moved on to something else, but she coordinated an event to talk about her art, recognizing that there's beauty in the piece that she did was actually about like those church bells and the experience that she had as a deaf person with the feeling of the bells. Although she could not hear the bells, she did an art response to what that church ringing bell did for her experience as a person who identifies or who is deaf. We partnered with the Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies Department for Women's History Month in their film screening on Happy Birthday, Marsha, celebrating the work and legacy of Marsha P. Johnson. And then lastly, the thing I'll highlight on here is we are also very in tune with listening to what students want to hear. And so this event down in the corner about free speech, hate speech, and civility was largely put on because our students asked for it. So you may or may not have experienced some outside community people who come on campus. They usually camp out in front of the undergraduate library, and they basically tell us how we're all going to hell. And so that experience for a lot of students, especially having been remote for the past 2 years of the pandemic, was jarring. And they had concerns about whether or not, that was something that was okay for our campus. And so, somebody joined. And so we put that event on because our students asked for it. They wanted to have a conversation around free speech, recognizing that there are provisions that allow people to say what they want to say, but in the context of our university, in what ways do we have ways to protect ourselves or create spaces for civil dialogue around differences? So it was a really meaningful event, but we're always open to hearing from people based on programs that you want to see as it relates to identity and culture and diversity. These are some other events. I'm not going to go through them like in the same way, but we've done things with Welcome Black, centering the needs and experiences of Black students, Women's History Month, I've already touched on that, partnering with our Native American student organization for the annual Peace and Dignity ceremony, which is held on Indigenous Peoples Day. And I've already kind of touched on some of the other things, but again, this is by no means exhaustive. It's just kind of a sampling of what we've done. We also do graduation celebrations. So recognizing that different cultural backgrounds may experience unique challenges that makes getting to the finish line a little bit more difficult, as much as we don't want to admit that, but it's true. And so we want to make sure that we're creating spaces to celebrate those milestones and accomplishments through a cultural lens in some of our graduation celebrations. And so we do that through our African American graduation celebration, the Center for Latino, Latina, and Latin American Studies with their El Nuevo Comienzos and Latinx and Indigenous ceremony, and then our Rainbow Graduation Awards and Homecoming for our LGBTQ student and feminist-oriented students. The other thing I touched on is our workshop training and presentations. And so these, again, are some of the things that we've done in response to students asking for it, but also in response to, what's happening in the world around us. And so one of those things was our What's Going On series in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, and just creating spaces for our campus community to come together around issues related to racism, equity, and social justice. I briefly mentioned our learning community. So we have two learning communities, RISE, which is for self-identified women of color, and the network, which is for self-identified Black men. And so in any of these circumstances, our programming is open to any person of the Wayne State community, but we recognize that, in certain situations, we need to center experience or background of a certain population of students because their experience in a predominantly white institution is a little bit different. So RISE for self-identified women of color really does mean that. It's not just, for Black women or whatever. We truly mean if you identify as a woman of color, this is a learning community for you. And the network, again, centering the needs of Black men. And so both of these learning communities offer points of entry for social connection, community building, mentorship, not only with peer mentors, but also with faculty and staff mentors who are connected to these learning communities. So these have been around I was actually one of the founding members of RISE, so I've been here for 6 years. So RISE has been in existence for 6 years, and I know the network, I think, has been around for like 8 years. So it's something that we're really proud to be able to keep running. And then just some quick changes to our office. So I briefly mentioned that we are short-staffed right now. And so we're in the process of trying to fill some positions. So I mentioned we wrapped up an interview today for our advisor for student engagement. And so I'm hoping to make a decision ideally by the end of this week. And then we'll move on to our search for the assistant director. But we also were fortunate enough to be able to get more space on the 7th floor. So we're located on the 7th floor of the Student Center, which a lot of people I'm learning don't realize that there's 7 floors in the Student Center. You gotta take the elevators down by the Starbucks. That actually takes you up to the 7th floor. But we get to share this space with the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies. So we have the multi-purpose room, which is where we've been doing some of our programming, and then the Multicultural Commons, which we're still waiting on furniture. But the picture that you see here is the multicultural or multi-purpose common. Oh my God, I keep mixing room. Multi-purpose room, which is does have the furniture. And then over the summer, the center moved up here with us, so we have more collaboration opportunities with the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies. So that's been exciting. This is the Multicultural Commons. And this is what we're waiting anxiously on for the furniture to arrive. I was told actually it was supposed to be here, I think actually yesterday, but it's not here. You know, everything is on back order, unfortunately. But when it does come, we will be holding an open house to celebrate, you know, this expansion and this new space. And the Multicultural Commons is more of an open space for students to come and be and exist in between classes, whereas the multi-purpose space is more for our offices to host programs, because previously we didn't really have good access to space. And then here you'll see in this little kind of conference room, that's a little area for students if they need to meet up for like a student group or study or something. But we're really excited to be able to have this. It'll be really nice. This is a faculty office, so there's some faculty and staff offices in this space, so it'll be shared with staff and faculty, so students can kind of have that opportunity to build connections too. So that is our office. I wanted to leave time to really, like I said, listen to you all's perspectives, if there's more that you wanted to know, but ways in which we can support adult learners more in our programming and recognizing that you have a unique experience. And I'm eager to hear that. So I'm gonna stop sharing and move this over here. Okay, cool. So that's it. I don't know. Oh, there's a Melba here. So I don't know if you have any questions or anybody else has questions.
I'd like to know more about RISE and the network, because I feel like our students are particularly interested in like that networking piece. And so if you could tell me more about what those, or like what kind of events or programming, like when and where they meet, things like that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put a link in the chat. So, okay, so RISE is, like I said, for self-identified women of color. And so they do like bi-weekly discussions around a theme related to being like a woman of color in certain areas and spaces. And so they had a welcome back event to try to get students in that. And then we do have 2 peer mentors. So if you click on that link, you can see for RISE, like the 2 peer mentors there who help with our programming, and they reach out to students, making sure that like, hey, are you good? Do you need anything? And then, like I said, they do the bi-weekly events. And then ultimately, we're trying to gauge that. I will say that the pandemic kind of changed the learning communities in a lot of ways because people engage differently now. So we're still trying to figure that out, but it is centered around kind of discussions. They just held a movie night yesterday for Halloween. And then they'll be working on like a Friendsgiving event before Thanksgiving. And then in the spring, I think they might be trying to revamp some things to try to think about different ways to engage people, because it is kind of based on student availability. So like, when can people come to these things? So
right,
they're open. And then the network, if you click on that other, oh, that's not on it. Okay, we need to update that. So the network is really designed to center the needs of Black men. So that they also have bi-weekly discussions And then Friday virtual meetings, so that if people don't really want to come to in-person things, there's a virtual option. And they also center around discussions. So I know, I think it's this week. I get them mixed up which week is when something happens. But I know they were having a presentation on doing research. So for Black men who are interested in research, that's something where there's underrepresentation there. And so they invited someone in to speak on that. They're actually getting ready to do, we got a grant funded project from the Ford Foundation to create kind of this conference style event called, or from the Men of Courage event. And so it'll be like not a full day, but a good part of the day, networking and conferencing opportunity. And it'll be bringing in people from not only Wayne State, but also the neighboring, so like Oakland Community College, Oakland University, Eastern, and then high schools, so different community high schools to talk around issues relating to being a Black man in education. And so I think Joseph is getting ready to send that out now, actually, the registration. Okay. So if anybody is interested in that, definitely let me know. And because I'm pretty sure he might have sent the first round out, actually. They have space for up to 300 registrants. So
wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So where do you see this, like, OMSI expanding, or what kind of programming would you like to see?
Yeah, so I think as we continue to build our team, I'm excited to see what strengths the team will have to determine what types of things we can do. One of the ways in which I lead is really like strengths-based. So I want my team to be able to do things that they are good at, but also will help build some programming areas that we don't currently have. One thing we're always trying to do is, we're a small office. And so, again, through those collaborations, I'm looking to try to expand some of our cultural based celebrations. So for example, like Arab American Heritage Month, that's in April. And unfortunately, like that's a very busy month for everybody on campus. Yeah. And so I actually just recently met with a student senator on how can we make there be more events and community spaces celebrating Arab American heritage and Middle Eastern North African heritage. So I think, being able to expand some of those cultural celebrations, especially for some of the backgrounds that I personally don't identify with. So I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on the, somebody else's experience. Sure. And so I'm always looking for ways to collaborate with people who feel tied to that, who have an interest in that. And then also one thing we'll be doing too, which actually, you are some of the first people to know. We did actually just get funding from the provost to be able to pilot a multicultural student advisory board, which will be a paid position. Oh, nice. That people don't have to have work study for, which is why I was really excited for that. But that group will actually help with some of those culturally based programming areas. So it'll be students designing programs for students, so that hopefully, they'll be designing things that they want to be at, versus me trying to come up with something that I think someone might be interested in coming. Right. So, so I'll be, promoting that. I need to kind of wrap up some things. There's a lot of things happening at once, but I'm really excited to be able to pilot that soon.
Right. Very cool. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of OMSI.
Yeah. I literally just got that a few days ago, so that's not in this presentation, and I'm not ready to like broadly promote that. Just like I said, because I need some capacity to be able to like supervise these people.
Right. You need more people before you can bring on more people.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. But yeah, there should be more things coming out that will be exciting. I'm trying to think. We'll have Native American Heritage Month next month. I'm doing some things in collaboration with the Native American Student Organization. They have some programming, so I hope cross promote that. Yeah.
Okay. I have one other question, but did anyone else have anything before? Mine's kind of like a wrap up question. So James or Harper or anyone
I will throw in the chat, I think, just foreshadowing, you really should get on our listserv. I promise I don't even email a whole lot, but there will be some really exciting things that'll be coming out in the next day or two that you might want to be on our emails for students. I'm sorry, for students only, but staff, you should be on the email too. Correct?
I'm about to send this email, so is that okay?
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Please subscribe. If they click on that link, there's a button and they can add it. But that's kind of the best way to learn about our programs. And like I said, I really do try not to I do not email every day. I really try to be judicious about when I send an email. Oh, sorry, Melba. They said that they have connection issues.
So if somebody wants to just generally get involved or learn more about just all the things that are going on, what should they do?
I mean, they can definitely come to our office. Depending on what it is, we might point them to the Dean of Students office. But definitely, we're a good place to start, especially if it's having to do with, identity, culture, if they have an idea for a program. Yeah, I would definitely say you can come up, and especially when we get this new furniture, this will be a really cool place.
I'm excited to check it out.
I know, man. We've been waiting so long. So, yeah.
Great. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add or ask?
Sure. Hey, Dr. Hawks, I've had the opportunity to talk with Dr. Jackson at the Black faculty.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a discussion about some of the things that we're doing in career services. So perhaps this is probably something that maybe we can collaborate on regarding BIPOC males.
Yeah.
In career services, we want to try, as I ran this by my director, I know Sean Purity, Sean, and we talked about having a workshop for BIPOC males. We know the difficulty males are having regarding and interviewing and entering predominantly white spaces. So we want to think about doing a workshop of maybe having some panelists and having some opportunities to have some support networks that the students can have. A, the support networks that currently exist on campus, and B, having some panelists, having some discussions and strategies, techniques, things that they have done and how they negotiate the spaces. So so
write that down.
Okay, so I would do, Dr. Hawks, I'll send you the proposal I sent to Dr. Jackson.
Okay.
Let you read it, and then we can have a further discussions, and then and make it happen.
Absolutely. I know in the past too, our office has partnered with career services on a number of things. One of them was Ally Bank. We did a partnership with Ally Career Services and OMSI on I forgot what it was about, but I think they have a commitment to diversity in their organization. So that was something that one of the people who used to work in our office helped coordinate. But definitely.
That was a while back?
Yeah, I would say that was probably it was pre-pandemic. So that probably would have been 2019. And they had a job. Actually, I might still have the email. Yeah, email me because somebody reached out because they were working with Kristen. And I said, I need to put a pin in that. So I saved it somewhere. But yeah, reach out to me.
Okay. Well, maybe Amber, maybe that's somebody, I don't know, that's Lynn from Ally, because we're trying to, Dr. Hoss establish a relationship with Ally. We have a contact person.
Yeah, let me see. I'm going to find it right now. Ally Bank. Let me see. I can find it, but for the sake of recording, I don't want to be blank.
You get a chance to send it to her. But I'm gonna send that proposal to you, Dr. Hoss, so you can go ahead and we can talk about that. So that's definitely, we want to get that going.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely a beneficial workshop.
Yeah.
For the young for them.
Is there anything that you all feel that you hear from students that you wish there was a program around that maybe relates to diversity in addition to what you just brought up, James, with interviewing and I'm just scrolling and also not multitasking now.
Terrell got on. Finally. Hi, Terrell.
You missed the whole thing.
We're just wrapping up, but we're just talking about Dr. Hawk just asked if there are some things that we're hearing from students that we might that they might want to see more programming around. Maybe you have some thoughts on that too. If
I
you're
apologize for getting in at the end of the meeting. I don't know what was going on with that. So,
well, I'm just glad you're here. Terrell, Stephanie, do you and Terrell know each other?
I don't know. I have to see Terrell, but maybe.
well, let me let you see Terrell that was just
Oh
in the
yeah,
meeting with
okay,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just met him today again. So yeah.
How are you again today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Thanks for getting on. I think there was anything else. So, I mean, in terms of programming, I mean, I want to be a little bit more intentional about how we're working on like a different, I mean, you're part of my council, like different ways that we like surveying some of our adult learners to see, kind of dig more into what they might be looking for. Cause I think there's some space here for this conversation, definitely some space for this conversation and a need for it. And then I also think that there's, I mean, just like in logistic things, evening hours. A lot of events and meetings are during the week, during the day when our students tend to be working. So
right.
The evening and online availability is really key.
Right.
So
I'm trying to work on that. Once we get fully staffed, like that should be helpful. And then what my goal also, once we have that space down the hall, is that we'll have like a day out of the week that is open late. The only thing that like concerns me is up here, it's really, we don't want to keep things open because there really isn't any traffic up here. And so if something were to happen, I don't know that anyone would actually know that. Like I'm pretty sure there are no cameras up there. So you know, just trying to maintain a safe environment in the later evening hours is something that I'm very aware of. So like I said, once we get some folks, once the team is fully staffed, that should be something that we can better accommodate. Because right now it's just me and Joseph and like I said, and Candace. Yeah. And Candace doesn't have programming responsibilities as an assistant. So. I'm still looking for this email. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hearns.
Mr. Tubbs.
How are you, sir?
Oh. But yeah, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, let me ask you a question, and it may have been answered, but of course, you know, with my perfect timing, if it's been answered, I apologize. But in your experience, how does a weekend like, well, a Saturday event, how are they accepted in your experience?
Honestly, I don't see very many Saturday events, so I don't even know that I can answer that well. The times that we've had Saturday things were more like, so African American graduation is on a Saturday. It traditionally has been on a Saturday. When we've taken students to conferences, those have typically been over a weekend. But as of late, I mean, like, the only person you know who might be able to answer that actually, but this is the different vein, is the Academic Success Center. Because I know they've offered like weekend tutoring and study group things. But I don't know that I can answer that because we have a hard time getting people coming. We've done Friday programs and people don't come to those. So, I don't know. I mean, is that something? Have you heard people would actually come to a Saturday thing? Or?
No, I haven't. However, one of the things that crossed my mind was because of the adult population and being non-traditional in relation to just their schedules.
Yeah, that
maybe a weekend afternoon type of event might be able to pull a few people out towards an event.
Okay.
You know,
yeah, I think so. Pre-pandemic, we did so for adult learners, we did like a piggyback off of open house. Like we had a room in the basements or the lower level, and we had like a special event there. which is
Okay.
nice because they already had like free, they had all the infrastructure set up for like free parking and things.
Yeah.
We got a pretty good turnout for that, and about like 15 students showed up and they were really engaged.
Okay.
So that might be something worth exploring in the future.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, the thing I'm noticing is people in general don't come to stuff unless they're already there for another, like usually class or work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like if they were there, if it was an open house thing and parking was paid for, I can see how that might be more enticing for someone to come. I think any student is probably like there aren't weekend classes, right?
There are some, very, very few.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think if it was tied to something else, they might come. But I don't know that people would like I said, a Friday is a good example because usually Fridays, like there aren't any classes or there might be less stuff happening. And so maybe they have a little bit more free time, but we don't see a lot of people. We try to actually not do Fridays because no one comes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just mostly like if people will come, sure. But I don't, I think the idea of testing it out on an open house, that might be a good plan.
We got to try to, people's schedules are all over the place, even the professionals on this call. People's schedules are all over the place, and being able to pull people necessarily onto the campus and or around the campus is a focus that is a focus of mine. It's like, how do we get people at least around the campus, if not necessarily at the student center or et cetera, just like around the campus. But I understand that logistically, and I don't know well enough, but logistically there can be problems with that, as a university. But I think when we're talking, because I'm thinking about the fall and how they're going to have the event. I think it's this weekend. There's an event on Gullen Mall or something.
Is there?
I think there's something around Halloween.
Oh, I think there's something on Friday evening, maybe.
Yeah, I think, and it was like, I was like, I wonder how many people are actually going to be at that as adult learners.
I was thinking about that because I wanted to go, but we have a different Halloween thing for the kids on Friday evening. I'm like, that would have been the perfect thing to go to because it is like very, because it was talking about like you can bring your kids, and so it was a very like family friendly, low pressure kind of situation. Just getting onto campus,
things like that. But it like you made me think about. Parking is killing us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's why people don't, if they'll tie something onto something if they're already here. But I don't know that people will come and pay $8.50 for a 1 hour event. Especially if they're not local, like that's what we're finding. Like, why would I drive? Which is why we've been experimenting with trying to do like evening thing, like we'll do some evening things. And, we try to do things around the lunch hour. Sometimes people try not to have classes around the lunch hour. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm noticing because we don't even get student workers to come on the day that they don't have to be here, and we're paying them to come to work, so they're like, I don't have class that day, so I won't be here. And you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah.
I had a meeting yesterday with a really awesome student. She's 71 and she's coming back to wrap up her bachelor's degree because she wants to go to the law school.
Oh, wow.
Very cool. But she's saying, I was talking about some of the program that we're doing. She's like, you need to have a smooth jazz evening. She's like, people will come to that. I'm like, okay. And
like live jazz?
Yeah. She's like, you need to have like a jazz set. I'm like, I could probably like get somebody from like the music who like a student something. It doesn't have to be like a professional, I guess. Just having like a very low key event like that. And she's like, you can't let traditional students in.
Oh, okay.
She's like, it needs to be specific to this population. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I'll try anything if it works.
Okay. I mean,
It does sound very classy.
it does. I mean, I don't know if I'm too young, you know. What is, you can't let any young people in. Who is too young? What is the age?
Right.
50 and up? What is the
So we're gonna check IDs at the door.
right? You have your AARP card. What is the age limit? So I think that makes sense. And that's something I'm aware of, is that some of the events that we may be really targeted to an 18-year-old. And I'm aware that, like, you know, I mean, that's not appealing to someone who's not 18. And so that's something that, you know, I was wanting to hear a little bit. And if you're able to, I know you were doing surveys and things, if you're able to hear, you know, that they're wanting something and it ties back to a DEI topic, you know, I'd be happy to try to partner on creating something, you know, because I know sometimes, you know, our office is, you know, things that are not really aligned with a classroom experience. For some people, it's just not something they want to prioritize for how they spend their time, and I totally respect that. You know?
Sure.
So I think, you know, certain age, I think sometimes it can be a turnoff if there's too many, like, if it seems too young, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a place for all of that, you know, and belonging, but yeah, well, it's a larger conversation. I think there's no proven method. I think we're just going to have to try some different things and see what works.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Any other questions for tonight? I know I have a lot of questions to ask you when we meet later this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know I have a lot of things rolling around that I'm thinking about, but
I am really sensitive. I do want to reiterate, like, I am really sensitive to recognizing that different age bands of people want different things. And so I think if that's something that you have data on, I'd be really open to hearing that.
Yeah.
Because, like, the thing that will be coming out on email in a few days, I think anybody would want to come to that. So,
okay.
I don't want to put it on the recording. Like, that's fine.